and let us all do we can to build a better future.
Hey, Daniel. You know, that whole thing with forced to vote. Remember that thing? You know, it was this pretty big issue that we were talking about.
Wait, were you talking about the point where the left was for forced to vote, or when Jimmy was for forced to vote, and then everyone on the left was like, "Never mind, I'm going to do the opposite of him." Just like, hey, we're the Progressives Caucus. We're for peace in Ukraine. Oh wait, the Republicans are for that. Never mind. We're good. Go to war.
Well, here's what I want to bring up for everyone. Obviously, the House Progressives were never going to maximize their political power when they had at least a large voting bloc in theory. And again, the squad is only in name only. They're not a squad.
It's Nancy's funniest joke, in my opinion.
True. And hey, look, I don't want to tip my hat to Nancy, but when she makes a funny joke about the squad and how weak they are, it's a fact, and I can't argue with it, and I won't. So why am I bringing up forced to vote? Well, Jimmy Dore was correct on it, on its power and its usage. And the thing is, the Republican Party, and we spoke about this last week, the Freedom Caucus in particular, well, they are a voting bloc within the GOP. And as much as I'm critical of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, I have to acknowledge when a party or a group of politicians are going to be using their power and influence. Now, it's not going to help out you, the average voter, but we're seeing, again, in contrast, how the GOP is going to use their force to vote to twist the arm of potentially Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. That's right, Cenk Uygur's favorite boogeyman.
But you can't do that, I've been told by people who say they know more than me, that have bigger YouTube channels that say that they're left.
Well,
turns out you can.
Well, obviously, Sammy Boy-Cedar and Cenk Uygur got a phone call when they decided to retract their support for forced to vote. But the thing is, the GOP, especially the Freedom Caucus, they're going to do it. Now, again, shout out to Case Study QB. Hey, Elon Musk, can you reverse the censorship that's happening to Case Study QB? He's wrongly being censored. That was done by the go ahead, Dan.
No, I'm not even going to get into what Elon's going through right now. Good luck to him figuring this out.
Will House Progressives ever use their power for good like the Freedom Caucus uses it for evil? Again, let's play this clip. It's from CNN, the most inept media outlet out there that wastes millions upon millions of dollars for their streaming service.
Becoming Speaker traditionally takes 218 votes. Technically, though, what you need is a majority of the lawmakers who are present on the House floor. If no candidate has a majority on the initial vote, the House goes to a second ballot, and so on and so on. The last time a Speaker election went to multiple ballots,
Go ahead, Daniel.
It sounds like she's like, well, we've told everyone you can't do any form of ranked choice voting unless you're in Congress. I know she's not saying that. This is what I heard. Look at the way you pause. She's like so confused and like surprised by the news she's delivering she's delivering it.
Are we bad people for pausing at this point? No.
We didn't choose this time. Although we did, we really didn't. So I don't have any real responsibility for that. I think it's very insightful.
Agreed.
In 1923, Nancy Pelosi won re-election last year as Speaker with 216 votes.
And again, remember, the squad and the House Progressives, especially to those who are on the forced to vote petition, they could have used their voting bloc power. They could have united and maybe got some consensus out of old hagbag Nancy, but they didn't do a damn thing. Why? Because they're not there to raise the ruckus. But the Freedom Caucus, they're going to do their own raise the ruckus, but it's not going to benefit you, the voter. It's going to benefit them and their dream for power. And again, it's a comparison of AOC and MTG, because if power is presented to one of them, AOC is going to act like a timid bear, and MTG is going to act like a rabid bear. You'll see what I'm talking about in this video. Again, shout out to Case Study QB. He's wrongly being censored.
It took John Boehner back in 2015, 216 votes. That was also what Newt Gingrich received in 1997. McCarthy's road, though, potentially quite a bit rockier. He's been preparing for this moment for years, carefully courting the Freedom Caucus group that made Boehner's life so difficult that Boehner up and resigned. And in recent weeks, McCarthy has courted conspiracy theorists like Marjorie Taylor Greene. Remember what Greene told the New York Times last month about McCarthy, quote, I think that to be the best Speaker of the House and to please the base, he's going to give me a lot of power and a lot of leeway.
And that's what I wanted to bring up. She wants power.
Yeah, of course she does. I want to say CNN doesn't get to call anyone a conspiracy theorist. CNN, oh, maybe black holes took down that Malaysian airline. CNN, hey, you know what we should do for our ratings? We should have Trump on camera all the time, even if he's not there. CNN also is like, man, I can't believe that us having him on camera all the time helps propel him to power. But it's not our fault. It's Marjorie Taylor Greene's fault, that conspiracy theorist, working together with more than 2 or more people to do something.
Well, the thing is, to your point, Dan, and I think everyone needs to realize this, Marjorie Taylor Greene would be nobody were it not for corporate media, including CNN, for giving Trump all that free press way back in 2016.
Right.
Everyone,
Yeah.
like I said about like these jagoff liberal activists who are saying Trump's the biggest threat ever. Look, they would be irrelevant were it not for Trump. They would not exist were it not for Trump.
And if they didn't give Trump the power and the fear and legitimized how, like, again, I remember very distinctly, I spoke to someone a couple of months ago and I mentioned Trump's name and they literally said to me, this was not like a someone that dyed their hair and was in college. This wasn't like an adult mom. And she was like, don't say his name. It triggers me. And I remember that story. And
yeah,
I was like, okay, but in my mind, I'm like, you're his biggest battery. Like, you're the battery that makes him go. Because owning the libs is a real voting procedure for a lot of Republicans, and you're powering that up by making him the boogeyman that he really isn't.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, it's as soon as you say his name or focus on him, that's how he gets his power. Marjorie Taylor Greene, similar to like all these liberal jagoff activists, she would be nobody were it not for Trump. And CNN and everyone else in corporate media helped do that. And look, compare her statement to somebody like AOC when Jimmy Dore and other progressives were asking, like, hey, can you do force the vote? What did AOC say? This is violence.
And if he doesn't, they're going to be very unhappy about it. Greene added, that wasn't a threat, but the reality that she and others like her are emboldened by the leverage that the narrow margin gives them.
So, make the point again. The point of this segment is that forcing a vote is a legitimate strategy that the GOP are currently using to have their power structure operate. Democrats, on the other hand, and so it's funny though, these Republicans say never do this, and then they do it effectively. Democrats, like AOC especially, say, yes, come to me, challenge me, come to me in town halls and challenge me, do anything when she's running for office. But then as soon as she gets in, it's violence, can't really do it. In fact, anyone who tries to make me do something to represent them is just a bad person. And in fact, they're a conspiracy theorist.
When we compare, again, people like AOC to Marjorie Taylor Greene, we see the fact that AOC, when she's given an opportunity to do something, she always withdraws back to the Democratic Party. And it should show all of you that there was never going to be any follow-through from the Justice Democrats or Brand New Congress or Our Revolution or anyone associated with those groups carrying their banners. This whole idea of reforming the Democratic Party, look, in 2018, even I was a little convinced by it. Maybe, okay, it could happen. Maybe this could be done. But the people who are in the Congressional Progressive Caucus have no follow-through, and they pretend to say that they don't have power. This is malicious. They're acting malicious. They're acting stupid, but it's really malicious on purpose. They're giving you guys this audacity of hope, or at least Democratic or progressive voters that are still suckers enough to support the two-party system, that, we could somehow change the system, but we just all gotta vote with the Democrats. We can make change. But the thing is, there was a chance. There was a chance for some kind of change, especially with forced to vote. And I want to play just a few short minutes of this video from 2021, where Jimmy Dore is saying to people, hey, let's try out this forced to vote. Hey, why force the vote? Now or never. Let's play it.
You know what I say? If not now, when? Getting a vote for Medicare for all is not performative. Getting a vote for Medicare for all is not symbolism. Getting a vote for Medicare for all is not destined to fail. And right now, Democrats have a tiny margin in the House, around 6 to 7 seats. The small margin of votes the progressive members have gives them an extraordinary amount of leverage. The Speaker of the House is who decides what legislation gets voted on. That's who decides. The vote for House speakership is happening January 3rd. Nancy Pelosi is preventing Medicare for All from getting a vote. Medicare for All has a majority approval in the nation. Medicare for All has an 80% approval rating among Democrats. Progressives now have the leverage to get health care for Americans during a pandemic and beyond. No vote for Nancy Pelosi as Speaker unless she promises to put Medicare for All on the House floor for a vote. What would grow the Medicare for All movement more than an actual debate in Congress? What would galvanize more support for Medicare for All than having a vote on the national stage? What would mobilize the American people to fight for their own interests more than fighting their health care providers in the middle of a pandemic? More than 15 million people have lost their health care during this crisis. That is 15 million more people added to the 80 million people who were already uninsured or underinsured. Like a third of the country now.
Now I want to pause it here. Now, Daniel, pay close attention to this list. See, there are a huge number of progressives or quote unquote progressives that are on that list. Now, again, I want the audience to pay attention to this list too. This is a voting block if they decided to unite, if they wanted to. They chose not to. Again, Nancy Pelosi's little statement about the squad, even those 4 members are not a united voting block. 2 of these members right now are no longer going to be in Congress. First of all, Maureen Newman, she lost her election. And number 2, Chuy Garcia. Daniel, you know who Chuy Garcia is. Well, guess what? When we were out there in the field covering the mayoral candidates on Tuesday who were handing in their petitions, guess who's also throwing his hat in for the ring for, again, the office for mayor? Chuy Garcia. So it looks like he won't be in the House of Representatives. So at one point, there was a large voting block in theory. In theory, they never were. But now they're down by 2. And yet we're seeing the Freedom Caucus, they're actually going to maximize their power. They're actually going to follow through with what they want. Marjorie Taylor Greene, she wants power. She's going to want things that she wants. And you think she gives a damn how Kevin McCarthy feels or the GOP leadership feels? No. Trump's back in the election. And a lot of these diehard Republicans who were supporters of his are in Congress right now. And they want to make sure that their guy gets in office. Now, again, I don't know how the 2024 election will play out, but believe you me, he's going to be a force of power that the Freedom Caucus will use to their leverage in order to get things they want from Speaker or potentially Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. Can you imagine if the House Progressives actually did this to Nancy? Daniel, your thoughts?
Yeah, so, okay, we're in a situation that I think, reasonably speaking, us, Jimmy's show, and a few others, we nailed this topic to a wall a year ago. We explained all the perks of this plan, the very low cost of operating it, and the progressives, the quote-unquote progressives, the quote-unquote squad, which is, again, I think, as I said earlier, so Nancy is the one that made them called the squad because they're a bunch of individuals that can't get along, which is why I think it's one of her funniest jokes. But Jimmy explained, the other people that used to agree with forcing the vote as a reasonable, commonplace political tactic before they ran away, all explained why this is a reasonable tactic. And what did the Democratic progressives do when this was laid out in front of them? They could have, one, gone with it and said, yeah, this is a good strategy because we do care about Medicare for all and we're going to fight for this. They could have said no, but be smart politicians about it and either just ignored the discussion as indefinitely as they could. Whenever a question came up, just make another question, which would have been infuriating to us, but it would have kept it invisible to most people. Instead, the path that they picked was Let's actively fight our constituents and call them right-wing conspiracy theory trolls who employ violence. And then just we'll worry about the rest of it later. The Democrats just barely didn't do as poorly as everyone thought they were going to do. There was not a red wave because Gen Z voted. And Gen Z, why did Gen Z vote? Does anyone remember? Oh, why is Gen Z voting in large numbers? Well, because Biden promised student loan debt relief of up to $10,000, which we were arguing against wasn't even enough anyway. And as soon as that vote happened, he all of a sudden was like, can't do it. Can't do it. Sorry, folks. Thanks for the votes, kids. Little girl, come over here. But that was it. That was the show. So the only reason that there was no red wave is because Gen Z got screwed for voting. Yet here we are on this show coming at you guys 5 days a week. And what do we say? Don't trust your politicians. They're going to betray you. Understand what puts your politician in office, to understand what they're going to do, and vote on ballot initiatives, and also do the things that build power in your local community. So people could say that they were part of whatever the Democrats have been doing, but all they really did in the last year, if you put a professional amount of attention into this, is just throw away all of that because it didn't work, because you didn't do anything, which is still the issue that we've always been dealing with.
And with that note, we will end it there. Nothing more to add or say. Your politicians will screw you over. They don't like you. They don't think about you. They don't respect you.